students, how are you all? I hope you all are good and taking care of yourself. So students, I welcome you to my next video lecture from the first chapter 7th standard science, nutrition in plants. But students, before we move on further, let's recall what we have discussed in the previous lecture. So students, if you remember clearly, I discussed with you the unique food making process of plants, that is photosynthesis. And we discussed about that what are the specific raw materials, what are the specific conditions which are required by the plants to prepare their food by this process of photosynthesis. So students, now we know that plants and other organisms like algae, as it also contains chlorophyll, they are capable of preparing their own food by the process of photosynthesis, and that's why we call them as autotrophs. Okay, so during the process of photosynthesis they prepare the food, and that food is prepared in the form of a carbohydrate, and that is glucose. Yes, you might have heard the name before also, and glucose is one of the simplest kind of carbohydrate. So plants, they prepare their food in the form of this simple carbohydrate. Now students, is it like that plants need only carbohydrates to survive successfully? As we have learned in previous classes about our own body, that we eat variety of foods because we have to get variety of components, carbohydrates, fats, vitamins, proteins, etc., etc. So is it like that plants are able to survive only upon carbohydrates? No. Like we people, plants also require some other components like vitamins, fats, proteins. So today let's start a discussion with the topic that how plants synthesize other components of their food, excluding carbohydrates which they synthesize during the process of photosynthesis. So in this series, first we will take that how plants they synthesize proteins. We know that we take a variety of plant proteins in our food, and the best example is pulses and beans. Most of the pulses and beans we get from the plants, and they are very rich source of proteins. So now question comes, how plants they synthesize their proteins? So students, basic raw materials which plants absorb from the soil includes water and minerals, and by using this water and minerals they synthesize carbohydrates. But for synthesizing proteins, plants require one special element, one special mineral in larger quantity, and that special mineral is nitrogen. Yes, about which you have learned in 6th standard. So for synthesizing proteins, plants require nitrogen. Now you might be thinking, oh, it's very easy for plants because our air is containing 78% of nitrogen. So plants are getting abundant of that nitrogen, so they will quickly take it and they will prepare proteins. No, it is not so much easy for them. Why? Because although students, air contains 70% of nitrogen, but unfortunately plants, they cannot absorb any nitrogen from the air. So whatever minerals plants need to synthesize the food, they can only take from the soil in presence of water with the help of their roots. So plants, they can take nitrogen only through the means of soil only. They cannot absorb nitrogen gas directly from the air. So here what happens that in the soil a very good kind of bacteria lives, and that bacteria name is rhizobium. So let's just have focus upon rhizobium. So it is a kind of bacterium and it is found exclusively in the root nodules of the leguminous plants. Now leguminous plants, students, are those plants which provide us with pulses and beans. Yes, वो plants जिनसे हमें दालें मिलती हैं. We call them as leguminous plants. So students, in the roots of the leguminous plants, we will observe small, swollen, round structures, and these swollen and round structures are known as root nodules. And inside these root nodules is present the bacterium called rhizobium. The bacterium called rhizobium. So the question comes, why madam is talking so much about this rhizobium? It is because here rhizobium acts like an agent. What it do? When it is living in the root nodules of the leguminous plant, it captures nitrogen from air and mixes it with the soil in which the roots of the plant is growing. So it acts as a mediator, that it takes nitrogen from the air and makes some nitrogen compounds of it, and these nitrogen compounds are mixed in the soil. And then in the soil we know that roots of the plants are present. So these roots, they absorb these nitrogen compounds from the soil, and by using that they synthesize proteins. So rhizobium helps in the synthesis of proteins by plants. How? By making available atmospheric nitrogen in the form of nitrogen compounds present in the soil. Unless what will happen? That plants, they cannot absorb nitrogen directly from the air. And it is not only the rhizobium bacteria which is alone helping in this work for plants. We have certain more examples like Annabella, Nostoc. All these are examples of those microorganisms which help in the fixing of atmospheric nitrogen. Right, students? So, regarding the synthesis of proteins, do remember that plants cannot absorb gaseous nitrogen directly from the air. So, first, that is rhizobium bacteria. It captures nitrogen gas from air. It converts into nitrogen compounds. The compounds get mixed with the soil, and from the soil, students, the roots of the plant, they absorb the nitrogen from the soil and synthesize proteins. And students, same proteins we consume in the form of pulses and beans, and that help us to grow and develop. Right? So that is another component, that is proteins. So now plants have synthesized carbohydrates. Now they have synthesized proteins. Now next one is regarding fats. So in plants, what happens? Some plants, they convert carbohydrates, that is glucose, which they have synthesized during photosynthesis, into fats. Fats means in the form of oils, and these oils, they store in their seeds. And that's why, students, when we crush these seeds, we can extract oil from them. Like we have got soya bean, sunflower seeds, mustard seeds. All these are having oils, and we know that oils are a great source of fats for us. Similarly, by using some more complex methods, plants also convert their carbohydrates into vitamins and minerals, and this is very complex method which you may learn in higher classes. Right, students? So till now we were discussing about autotrophic mode of nutrition in plants, and we discussed about photosynthesis, how this process takes place, what are the raw materials and conditions required, and how plants synthesize other food components other than carbohydrates. Right, students? Now we will see that what happens in heterotrophic mode of nutrition, which is followed by some of the plants also. Let's see. So students, now we will discuss about heterotrophic mode of nutrition. So in our first video lecture, I discussed with you that in heterotrophic mode of nutrition, organisms, they cannot prepare their food themselves. They derive their nutrition either from plants or from some other animals. Now we discussed that plants and algae, they both are one of the broadest category examples for the autotrophic mode of nutrition. But students, there are some plant forms which cannot perform photosynthesis, so they have to follow heterotrophic mode of nutrition. And under this category, under the category of heterotrophic mode of nutrition, these different organisms, they have developed different modes of heterotrophic nutrition. So let's discuss that what are these different kind of heterotrophic modes of nutrition. So in this present chapter, we are going to discuss about 4 kinds of heterotrophic mode of nutrition. So the first one is saprotrophic, then another one is parasitic, then next one is insectivorous, and finally symbiotic, or we can also call it as symbiosis. Right students? So now we will take one by one these different modes of heterotrophic nutrition mode and we will discuss them in detail. So we will start with first saprotrophic mode of nutrition. Now students, in the term saprotrophic, the half word sapro, the word sapro, it stands for the English word meaning rotten, means decaying, जो चीजें सड़ने और गलने लगती हैं. So we call them as rottening things. So sapro stands for the word rotten, and trophos, as we have already learned, stands for nutrition. It means the term is indicating that in this mode of nutrition, organisms, they are feeding upon dead and decaying matter. Yes, in saprotrophic mode of nutrition, children, organisms, they feed upon dead and decaying matter. You might have noticed that in our kitchen, when leftover food is left outside the refrigerator, it becomes spoiled. It is no longer fit for consumption. So what we do? We throw it outside. Similarly, we have kept many kinds of pickles, and when these pickles get spoiled, then we also throw them outside. And after a few days, we find that there no food is lying as it is. Why? Because that food is eaten by the saprotrophs. Yes, those organisms which follow saprotrophic mode of nutrition, we call them as saprotrophs. And the best example for saprotrophs is fungi. F-U-N-G-I. It is referred as fungi. And do remember that fungi, they don't contain any kind of chlorophyll like algae and plants contain. So they lack chlorophyll. That's why they are following saprotrophic mode of nutrition. Now students, we have got varieties of examples of fungi from our daily life. Say bread molds. Now bread mold is that specific fungal form which you found growing on bread pieces. I am pretty sure you might have seen that when we keep bread, the normal bread which we eat in our breakfast, which we make use for preparing sandwiches and tasty pakoras, that bread, if it is left outside the refrigerator, say for 6 to 7 days, then we find different patches, different colored patches of blue color, green color, and sometimes white fluffy growth. So that blue and black or green color patches is the bread mold. It is the fungus which is found growing on the bread. You might have also seen that sometimes the pickle bottles in which we store pickles in our houses. Inside that, when you open the bottle for taking out pickle, you see a white cottony thread growth over the pickles. Sometimes it happens no कि हम अचार की बोतल खोलते हैं और अचार के ऊपर ऐसा लगता है किसी ने कॉटन रख दिया है, रुई रख दी है बहुत सारी. So that cottony growth is nothing but an example of the fungal growth. Another is yeast. Now yeast is a unicellular fungus. It is that fungus which is made up of only one single cell. Yes, it is a unicellular fungus, and yeast actually is having more advantages as compared to disadvantages, and about which you learn in higher classes. Okay, and that is mushroom. Yes, I'm pretty sure you all might have seen that white umbrella-like structure which is found growing here and there, especially during rainy season. And few species of mushroom are edible also. That's why you might have seen that your parents, they purchase mushrooms packed in a packet from markets and they cook it at home. And we eat various delicious food items which are prepared by using mushroom. So mushroom is an example of edible fungus. So few such specimens I have collected to show you people. Say for example, let's start with this is mushroom which we have preserved. So you can see the white umbrella-like structure. So that is mushroom, and it is one of the best example for fungus. Right? Another, if you can carefully observe that this is one of the very old cardboard paper I have got, and if you see carefully this portion, it is having a blue color patch. So student, that blue color patch is basically a fungal growth. Similarly, here I have got a preserved specimen for wheat plant leaf. It is a wheat plant leaf, and over that you can see some black color patches. So that black color patches are of fungus. Actually, some form of fungus are well known for spoiling plants also. You might have observed that some of our fruits like oranges, if not consumed quickly, then within few days they develop a black color patchy growth over them. So what is that? That is nothing but the fungus. Similarly, one such example we have got again for fungus here. Student, it is commonly known as bracket fungi. It is a kind of fungal growth only, and just see how beautiful it is. It is, can you believe it? That it is a kind of fungus only. Yes, and it is known as bracket fungi. Right? A name has given just because of the typical shape of this outward structure. It is spreading out like a bracket, the circular shape. Right? So that is an example of fungus only. So right, students? So now fungi, these are examples of saprotrophs because they feed upon dead and decaying matter. Now students, these fungal forms, their feeding mode is very unique because what they do, first they secrete digestive juices on the dead and decaying matter, and these juices, they digest the food which is present there and nutrients are formed. And then these nutrients are absorbed by the fungus inside their body. Right? So first they are secreting digestive juices, then nutrients are formed, and then that nutrient solution is absorbed by the fungi. Right? That is how they feed upon. Sometimes in exam students we get a question that explain why fungus is known as a saprotroph. So answer is, saprotrophs are those organisms which feed upon dead and decaying matter. So fungi is feeding upon dead and decaying matter, so it is known as a saprotroph. Another thing, students, you might have noticed that especially during rainy season or just after rainy season, most of the things in our houses, they get spoiled. Means you can see a plenty of fungus growth in your house. over the damp walls, over your books, clothes, shoes, almost over everything. Almost over everything. Why? It is because students, for fungus to flourish, the two important favorable conditions are plenty of moisture and warmth. Means they require good temperature and plenty of moisture in their surrounding. And because of that, they survive, they flourish like anything in rainy season. So I hope now you will understand, you are able to answer the question if it is asked in exam, that why most of the things they get spoiled during rainy season. Because in our air, all the time, fungus spores are always present. Spores means these are very light bubble-like structure. जैसे bubbles होते हैं, बुलबुले होते हैं, spores भी बिल्कुल ऐसे ही होते हैं, like that. They are very light, invisible to us, but all the time they keep on floating in air. And as soon as they get their two favorite conditions, that is moisture and warmer, they settle down on various substances and they start growing. And because of that, our things, they start showing the appearance of brown, blue, green, black color patchy growth, and that is fungus. Right, students? And that's why we say that for fungus, the favorite season is the rainy season. Because in rainy season, the two conditions, that is moisture and warmer, is present in ample quantity. That's why they try to spoil most of the things in rainy season. Right, students? So, in this video lecture, I discussed with you about that how plants especially synthesize proteins, and then I discussed about with you the saprotrophic mode of nutrition. So students, that's all about for this particular session. Now the remaining modes of nutrition we'll discuss in detail in next forthcoming video lecture. Till then, take care. Bye.